Hi, Chris. It's great to have you here with us today for the first of our new series of AE Chats, where we'll just find out a little bit more about who you are, what you do, and your thoughts on the future of the industry. So let's get started. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, hi. Thanks for inviting me to this. So a little bit about my background. I started an apprenticeship at Doughty's as long ago as 1976, and I've worked in the aerospace industry for well over 40 years. And I was really focused on developing engineering and understanding how aircraft fly and looking at all the different types of products that sit inside an aircraft. So I've worked on propellers, landing gear, flap systems, and structures. I then went off and did a master's degree at Cranfield University, where I read aircraft design and successfully went back into the aerospace industry with a bit of better knowledge, and that really helped me develop. So that's where I came from.
That's brilliant. So you were recently appointed the project director of Fly Zero. What is it that Fly Zero do?
Fly Zero is a really amazing project. It is focused on the future evolution of aircraft, but it's actually looking at how we get to zero carbon emissions and what do we need to do that, not only from the aircraft itself, but from also all the operational and infrastructure that's out there and needed to be there to make it real.
Brilliant. So why do you think we need Fly Zero, and why is it important to have now?
Well, really, Fly Zero is something that we need to actually bring into play, because what we're seeing today is a massive change in the aviation industry. We've seen a tremendous drop in the number of passengers actually flying, and really what we want to see is a future where we are helping protect the planet. Fly Zero is backed by the UK government and it's led by the Aerospace Technology Institute, and we are on this mission to realize zero carbon emission commercial aviation by the end of the decade. We're doing this by bringing experts together across the industry in the UK and developing aircraft concepts, but also looking at manufacturing, technology, supply chain, operational skills. And really, Fly Zero is there because after the recovery from COVID-19, reducing greenhouse gas emissions is the number one priority for aviation. We need to protect our planet, and we need to meet our commitments to fight climate change. Every sector must act now. Decarbonisation of aviation is a massive challenge, but it presents an opportunity. We need to invest now to sustain the UK aerospace sector and be ready to capitalise on a market that could be worth £4 trillion globally by 2050. So it's incredibly important that we make Fly Zero real.
That's really interesting. So why is decarbonising such a challenge for aviation?
Aviation is different than what you see in automotive. You know, the aircraft are immensely powerful and capable and scalable. But in 2019, for example, there were 4.5 billion passengers flew on planes powered by kerosene. Those planes are obviously all putting out carbon emissions. And what we need to do is find a way to safely replace this fuel while creating enough power to fly remaining aircraft which are light enough to be efficient, and maintaining space for passengers and cargo to make future aircraft commercially viable. So that is one of the key issues. How do we change an industry and still keep that commercial viability? I mean, as an example, if you take consumption of jet fuel in the UK only, is currently around 15 billion litres per year. The equivalent in a hydrogen gas, which would be considered to be a way of decarbonising the emissions, would be 79 billion litres. That's 5.3 times more. And if we just could use hydrogen liquid, be 56 billion, 3.7 times more. Either way, that's a massive change to the infrastructure of how you go from a kerosene fuel to a hydrogen fuel and put that at the aircraft dock so that you can fuel the aircraft with it. As well as changing the aircraft, you've completely changed the whole infrastructure of how the industry works. Therefore, this Fly Zero is about revolution, not evolution. The investment needed in infrastructure and equipment is massive and not to be underestimated. But without this, we can't meet our commitments to protect our environment.
Of course, interesting. So we last spoke to you earlier this year when FlyZero was very new, and of course it's progressing very rapidly. So how has FlyZero progressed since January?
So since January, there have been some amazing changes in FlyZero. We started with 11 people in January. We're now at about 82 and a half people. These are experts from around the industry who've come and joined us from many of the industrial partners out there: Airbus, Rolls-Royce, Spirit, GKN, GE, and many more. And their people are actually focused on trying to find solutions to the problems that we can see of how to develop an aircraft such as FlyZero. In the first few months, we've been looking at how do we not only build the team, but plan the activities we need to do. And we've been running some very detailed challenges within the team on the various subjects around the propulsion system, the airframe system, the commercial viability of it all, and also looking at how we would actually plan to deliver the technology roadmaps and the commercial roadmaps, as well as the industrial architecture needed to support the UK going forward with FlyZero. So we have started to engage our external stakeholders through events, and we actually have an event planned on the 5th of May where we're going to do a webinar, but we're also having one-to-one conversations with lots of the industrial people out there. So we're building our teams and working in ways which are completely different than how the industry has worked over many years because of the COVID-19 environment. So if you can just imagine bringing 80 people together who have never personally met and asking them to run a program with each of them working independently is a challenge. But I have to say, we have massive energy within the team and inspiration to make this real. So I'm very proud of the team that we've got on FlyZero today.
That sounds really exciting, like it's progressing fantastically. So how do you see FlyZero progressing over the next 12 months?
So over the next 12 months, we have a mission to fulfill, which is to deliver back to the government our technology roadmaps. And we're working at pace now. We are very much focused on what we have to do to make that happen. So we're already using the research we've gathered to investigate technology bricks, we call it. So those technology bricks can be anything from a fuel cell to a hydrogen tank to some commercial views on how the market might change. And we're trying to use that information to define our concept configurations. And we're using the word scouts. We have about 15 scouts we've defined at the moment that we're looking at as personal vehicles that might be developed into a solution. And we'll then hone those down over the next 3 months down to 2. We'll then assess these against the wider sustainability and economical considerations, including, how they impact on reducing the level of CO2 emissions, and also the life cycle analysis and cost to build and operate those vehicles, because all of that adds into the carbon model. We're going to look at mapping the UK manufacturing, supply chain and technology capability, identify areas of expertise, as well as gaps for potential development. And we have also got a £1 million worth of academia programs, which we're going to start to look at the lower levels of technology where we need more research to understand what are those solutions. So a lot going on within the team. And, all of this has come together at the end of the project to create 2 concept vehicles, multiple technology bricks for UK industry, and a sustainability assessment of what was needed to make these changes real. And hopefully then roadmaps which the UK can use to develop their technology, their commercial positions, and industrial architects to support what might be the future of this market.
Fantastic. That sounds like a very busy 12 months. What about beyond that? What about beyond the next 12 months? What's the plan for FlyZero then?
Well, FlyZero, as you know, Charlie, is a 12-month program to deliver a load of virtual information. We, the team, want to make FlyZero real. And to me, that's about making and manufacturing some of this hardware that we're going to define and actually testing and verifying and validating that it's capable of meeting what we think it can do to improve the aircraft performance around zero carbon emissions. So part of what we want to see is more funding provided by the government to allow this to happen, and for us to reach back out into industry to get them involved, manufacturing and testing some of this equipment. And really, the ultimate to me would actually be fitting this equipment onto maybe an existing airframe and flying it as an experimental UK vehicle to validate where carbon emission can take us and what we can actually achieve through this technology.
Brilliant. And how do you think FlyZero are doing things differently?
Well, as I said to you earlier, I mean, just the way we're working is incredibly different, and therefore it's really challenging us as a team. And so we work very differently than what you might have seen in the normal industry. We have a very flat structure. We do lots of interactions with the team, and we make sure the team is interacting with us to ensure that we're all working together as one team. The other thing is, though, we're independent from industry, so we can focus on topics that maybe are not commercially viable with the industry today, but at least we can study them and understand what the impact of those might be, and hopefully we can guide those industries maybe into the aerospace market who are not in the aerospace market today, because they have a technology which would be a money spinner if they bring it across to the aerospace view. So we are really looking at that, and we're taking a detailed and holistic, open-minded look at the options. So we've not got a closed view on what the solution is. We're trying to look across the board to see what could be a solution. And then the other thing we're really doing is trying to empower the team members of FlyZero to take responsibility and accountability, and actually giving them something that maybe in their existing industry they would have found they have to go through quite a lot of steps to do, but we're allowing that to happen now. And so part of what FlyZero is doing is not only developing technology, it's developing the people and the capability of those people back into the UK industry, and hopefully helping build the aerospace communities that we have in the UK.
Brilliant. I mean, it sounds like you're doing some fantastic work, and it sounds like you do have a really solid roadmap for the foreseeable future for what you'd like FlyZero to become, which is really, really great. So just a couple of sort of general questions, because you are obviously an expert in the industry. Do we have the workforce and skills to support the future direction of the industry with electric and hydrogen developments?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, because we definitely have some of the skills, but some of those skills we need to develop and bring into the UK. And so one of the things we are trying to identify is, where are those gaps? And we're in the early stages of analysing the UK's current capabilities in alternative solutions and fuels. But it's fair to say it's likely that it will be areas that we need to develop further and quickly. And to do that, we need to look at how we can leverage our knowledge globally, and how we can interface with some of the global experts, and also how we could bring those experts back into the UK through some sort of funding mechanism or research and development activities that will actually bring that capability into the UK. I mean, what I do know is the team we have at FlyZero is world class, highly motivated and galvanized to the UK capability. So without a doubt, we are focused on how to get where we need to on FlyZero. But we're only a small team, and what we want to do is build that team across the UK and spread our knowledge and capability back into the UK. So I really hope that the next generation of aerospace experts are inspired by what we're doing and begin to think about taking an aerospace career in aviation, which will look very different to the one I enjoyed.
Of course. And what shape is the supply chain in currently, in your opinion?
I think today the supply chain is very much set up for what are the needs of the aerospace community. And so those are traditional solutions around the airframe and the engine and the systems. And what we really need to start thinking about is what this change will bring, because it will bring probably new energy sources into aviation. It will bring new legislation. So some of those supply chains will need to change, and we will need to find and how to develop those chains so they can provide product into aviation, because obviously our safety requirements are paramount, and therefore the actual manufacturing and approvals of those businesses need to be changed to bring them into aerospace. We want to support the UK supply chain in transitioning to this new demand and helping us develop the next generation of zero carbon emission aircraft. We hope through FlyZero to identify that UK landscape and those new opportunities for manufacturing components for zero carbon aircraft of the future, which are probably outside of today's supply chain. So we're hoping to provide that roadmap, which will identify technologies that we need to see coming back into the UK to support the industry.
Brilliant. And what other sectors do you think could benefit from ongoing R&D in aero?
There's lots of crossover I can see, and there's lots of benefits. You can see in automotive today that there's a lot happening around electrification, and you can also see that there's a lot that aerodynamics could be done in aviation, which could be applied back to the auto side to help the batteries and therefore the range of those cars. So I think there's cross-learning between those industries. I think there's also cross-learning between oil and gas and how we build the infrastructure for the future aircraft. So I think that's another area where FlyZero can provide some roadmaps which would hopefully support the growth of aviation, automotive, oil and gas together. Because at the end of the day, we're all focused on engineering, we're all focused on zero carbon emissions, and therefore we have a strong reason and link to work together as a team to get there. And it will take a joint effort to make it real.
Brilliant. And just one final question. How long will it be until the aero industry recovers and companies can adapt to the future of aviation?
It's a really good question. I mean, there's people better placed than I who can comment on recovery. In terms of adapting to the next generation of sustainable aviation, this is where we'll need industrial-wide efforts, policy changes, investment, and these are things FlyZero hopes to accelerate with the aim of realizing the zero carbon emission commercial flight by the end of the decade, but clearly not completely in our control. So it's going to really require effort from everyone to make it real. And so I hope to see it become real.
That's brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Chris. That's some really interesting information and insights about FlyZero and the industry as a whole. And I'm sure a lot of people will find it very, very interesting. I know I'm excited to see how FlyZero continues to progress over the next 12 months and hopefully beyond as well. So thank you so much again for your time, and hopefully it won't be long until we speak to you again.
Thank you very much.